Hello viewers, in this video I will talk about the play, not the play, novel, and the title of the novel is The Woodlanders. The Woodlanders, it is a novel by Thomas Hardy, and it was serialized from May 1886 to April 1887 in Macmillan's magazine, and it was published in 3 volumes in 1887, and it is one of his series of Wessex novels. Wessex, that was an imaginary place where he has set his most of the works, just like R.K. Narayan had done in a fictional town called Malgudi. Okay, so now who is Thomas Hardy? Thomas Hardy, he was born on 2 June 1840 and died on 11 January 1828. He was an English novelist and poet. He was a Victorian realist in the tradition of George Eliot. He was first influenced both in his novels and in his poetry by Romanticism, including the poetry of William Wordsworth. He was highly critical of much in Victorian society, especially on the declining status of rural people in Britain, such as those from his native South West England. So if you talk about the story it takes place in a small woodland village called Little Hillock, and it concerns the efforts of an honest woodsman called Giles Winterbourne to marry his childhood sweetheart Grace Melbury. Although they have been informally betrothed for some time, her father has made financial sacrifices to give his adored only child a superior education and no longer considers Giles good enough for her. When the new doctor, a well-born and handsome young man named Edred Fitzburg, takes an interest in Grace, her father does all he can to make Grace forget Giles and to encourage what he sees as a brilliant match. Grace has misgivings prior to the marriage as she sees a village woman called Sue Damson coming out of his cottage very early in the morning, and he suspects that he has been sleeping with her. Then she tells her father that she does not want to go on with the marriage, and he becomes very angry. Later, Fitzpiers tells her Sue has been to visit him because she was in agony from toothache and he extracted a molar. Then Grace clutches at this explanation. In fact, Fitzgerald had started an affair with Sue some weeks previously, and after the honeymoon, the couple took up residence in an unused wing of Melbury's house. Soon thereafter, however, Fitzgerald began an affair with a rich widow named Mrs. Charmont, which Grace and her father discovered. Then Grace found out by chance that Sue Damson had a full set of teeth and realized that Fitzpiers lied to her, and then the couple became progressively more estranged, and Fitzpiers was assaulted by his father-in-law after he accidentally revealed his true character to him. Both Sue Damson and Mrs. Charmont, they turn up at Grace's house demanding to know whether Fitzpiers was all right. Then Grace addressed them both sarcastically as wives all. Then Fitzpiers later deserted Grace and went to continue with Mrs. Charmont. Then Grace realized that she had only ever really loved Giles, but as there was no possibility of divorce, so she feels that her love seems hopeless. Then, Melbury was told by a former legal clerk down on his luck that the law was changed in the previous year, making the setting of the action 1858, and divorce is now possible. Then he encourages Giles to resume his courtship of Grace, and it later becomes apparent, however, that Fitzpiers' adultery is not sufficient for Grace to be entitled to divorce. When Fitzpiers quarreled with Mrs. Charmont and returned to Little Hintock to try to reconcile with his wife, she fled the house and turned to Giles for help. Then he was still convalescing from a dangerous illness, but Novelly allowed her to sleep in his hut during stormy weather, whilst he insisted on sleeping outside. As a result, he died. So Grace then later allowed herself to be won back to at least temporarily repentant Fitzpiers, thus sealing her fate as the wife of an unworthy man. So this is after Sue's husband. What was the name? Timothy Hanks has set up a man trap to crush Fitzpiers' legs, but it only tears Grace's skirt. Then no one is left to mourn Giles except a courageous, pleasant girl named Marty South, who had always loved him. Marty was a plain girl whose only attribute was her beautiful hair, and she was persuaded to sell this at the start of the story to a barber who was procuring it for Mrs. Charmont after Marty realized that Giles loved Grace and not her. Then she precipitated the equal quarrel between Fitzpiers and Mrs. Charmont by writing to Fitzpiers and telling him of the origin of most of Mrs. Charmont's hair. Then the novel reflected common Hardy theme, that is a rustic, evocative setting, poorly chosen marriage partners, unrequited love, social class mobility, and an unhappy or at best equivocal ending. As with most of his other works, opportunities for fulfillment and happiness are forsaken or delayed. If you talk about themes then marriage and sexuality, this is very beautifully depicted. The Woodlanders, it marks the beginning of controversy of Hardy's novels, and at this point in his career, he was established enough as a writer to take risk, especially in the areas of sexuality such as marriage, divorce, marital fidelity, and the use of unconventional plots and tones and seemingly immoral conclusions. And Hardy's portrayal of sexual morality, it had led to him being identified with the anti-marriage league. Then marriage and sexuality, this is the prominent theme. If you read the text, then only you will get to know. This is just a tip of the iceberg. Thank you so much.